I am sick of the UK. The wage stagnation, the shitty job opportunities, the toxic political environment, the fact we've had no summer this year. And when I thought I'd seen it all, this happened. This really takes the biscuit. Budgeons in Tufnell Park. What the are you playing at? Putting Twinkies in with the continental European bakeries. How could you possibly deem it acceptable in a middle-class area, in a middle-class supermarket, to put this Philistine American shit in with this exquisite confectionery? You've got San Michel, you've got Macaron, you've got Madeleine, and then you've got this. 20-lane highway, multi-storey car park, triple heart bypass, diabetes, AR-15, trailer park trash. And you're charging triple the price for it. Granted, I understand that this is probably a cost of the import from America, and also because the only people that are going to be buying it are the numerous seppos working for Bank of America that are positioning themselves in Islington. Because I too would miss the home comforts of bakeries that dissolve into an E-number processed sludge the moment it enters your mouth. Anyway, I was so appalled by this that I went and paid £4 for an olive-infused gluten-free bread roll next to it instead. And on a completely separate note, I just want to say this. If by any chance you are the pretty blonde girl that works in that cafe a couple of doors down that served me an avo and hummus sandwich, you looked into my soul. You made me feel my heart in my mouth. And I was already fragile from being at Maiden Voyage the night before. So if you see this, feel free to drop me a DM.
Yeah, so this one's quite sad really, isn't it? This is in response to a video I did on how Islam is kind of infiltrating the UK at a rate that's quite alarming. And yeah, the fact that there seems to be this two-tier justice system, one for them, one for us. But this comment here really, really hit home with me. It's so sad, but I've had so many along these lines where people have all, I think they've just given up. It says this country is unfortunately finished. Isn't that sad? That is so sad that people are thinking like that, and they really are. Like I said, there's lots along those lines, very similar to that, where people just think, what's the point? What's the point in fighting it? What's the point in saying anything? What's the point? We just get shut down, we get called Islamophobic, we get called racist. It's them and us, which is just awful. I think it's so, so terribly sad. But I understand it. I do understand it. It's hard. It's hard to keep the faith when you see what you see on a daily basis. But yeah, this country is unfortunately finished. Let's hope not. Let's keep fighting.
If you didn't think the UK was finished already, you will do after you see what I'm going to show you. So in case you didn't know, the bin men in Birmingham are currently on strike over pay and working conditions. Now this has only been going on for a week, bear in mind, but look at the state of this. Rubbish is piling up all over the place. It is absolutely out of control already. There have even been reports of rats the size of small dogs running around. And this is the same outside of houses, businesses. The streets are completely filled with rubbish. An emergency collection was put on today, presumably by workers that weren't striking. But residents were so desperate to get rid of their rubbish that the workers were completely mobbed and overrun, and it had to be called off early. This is complete madness. Council tax is through the roof. Bin men are striking because they don't think they're being paid fairly. And people are outraged. I think this is only a matter of time before this spills over into other areas as well. Also, with the hotter weather on the way, if this carries on, we're going to see diseases and all sorts of other carnage as a result of this. This is meant to be the UK's second city, by the way, next to London. I mean, what an absolute disgrace. The UK really is finished, man. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Another thing I'd like to point out while Brexit is the big hot topic is that the main concern when people were voting in favour of Brexit was illegal immigration. And as I've said before, Brexit has actually made illegal immigration and migrant smuggling gangs worse. This is mostly because when we left the EU, when we took back control and won back our sovereignty, blah, 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 we withdrew from loads of EU regulations on workers and working in our country that were EU regulations. So we, as no longer a member of the EU, we pulled out of them. We did not replace them with anything. I can tell you from experience, I worked with people when I was in restaurant management. I worked with people that should not have been doing paid work. They did not have the documentation to do it. They were doing cash in hand. Reason for that, the reason so many migrants are desperate to get to the UK via people smuggling gangs rather than settling in France or Germany or whatever, is because they know that the UK is actually one of the easiest countries to illegally work in. So some of these migrants and refugees who do not have the documentation necessary to work in Europe will immediately go for the UK due to that lack of regulation. And that's not to blame these people. If you or I were in that position, we would do the same. Britain still has less regulations on the legality of work, documentation, etc., compared to countries in the EU due to Brexit. So when you hear a Reform UK candidate or whatever repeating their one line of stop the boats, trying to demonise desperate people, understand that Brexit is what has made the UK such an attractive end destination for these people smuggling gangs, because you can come here and work illegally much easier than you can the rest of Europe. It's another thing that I don't think a lot of people recognise, that actually, as usual, the far right have made things worse. Follow for more.
Like me, you voted for Brexit. You've been betrayed by Keir Starmer in this EU reset. And I'm going to tell you why the arch remainer, that is Starmer, has sold that referendum deal down the river. Let's start with free movement of people, because that's what it is. People aged between 18 to 30 can come here from Europe. No cap on how many and no details on how long they can come for. Fishing. Absolutely shameful what they've done to our brave fishing men and women. The government proposed allowing EU trawlers into our waters for 4 years. Guess what? They've settled for 12 years, which means the next general election after that, even if Nigel Farage wins the general election, which I think he will after this, it will be very hard to unpick the deal. Also, the EU will be meddling in our emissions policy. In other words, the EU will be running industrial policy. There's talk that the EU will be telling farmers what they can and can't grow. And as for the big triumph, the big selling point from this government, that we will, when we travel abroad across Europe, be able to use e-gates, read the small print, only when appropriate. This is game, set, and match to the EU. It's the great surrender. It's the great betrayal. Keir Starmer always opposed Brexit. He's taking us back in the EU bit by bit, and you should rise up and revolt against it.
So sorry to be the one to tell you this, but I think I have some bad news for you. If you have made any money online or from your online activities within the last 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, and when I say making money online, that can also mean just gifting. Even if you are a content creator who has a full-time job, which actually 65% of content creators have a full-time job as well as content creation, then this applies to you and you should listen up. HMRC, which is the part of the UK government which is responsible for collecting tax from UK citizens, is clamping down on creators who may not be earning massive figures from their online digital businesses but are still earning. HMRC is going to be sending out thousands of what they're calling nudge letters to creators who sit in this bracket to regain the tax from them that is owed. If you do receive one of these letters, do not ignore it. If you cooperate fully to pay the tax that is owed, the penalties will be lower. Anyway, a penalty may not actually be charged if you cooperate and you were clear to be making a mistake. Mostly been put into place because this is a new industry. There are lots of cowboys and there are lots of people who don't understand their tax obligations as a content creator. Hi, my name is Verity. I'm an influencer manager and I have been for the last 6 years. And on this page, we lift the lid on the influencer industry and tell you all the things that you might want to know. Quick disclaimer that I'm definitely not an accountant or tax consultant, but I just thought I'd share the news so creators who perhaps don't have professional advice can seek some out.
So HMRC is clamping down on smaller businesses and their owners as it's hiring 5,000 new tax inspectors to try and tackle tax evasion, as smaller businesses account for around 60% of the tax gap between what should be paid and what is paid, according to an HMRC report. And whilst most business owners are honest and don't try and claim expenses that aren't wholly and exclusively for business use, the reality is that there are some businesses out there with accounts that are a pure work of fiction and they aren't paying their fair share, and HMRC estimates that every new tax compliance officer will add at least 1 million in tax revenue collected. However, it does seem a bit unfair that bigger businesses and multinational corporations can use offshoring tricks in order to reduce taxes paid in the UK. Might be legal, but it doesn't make it any less unfair because, in my opinion, bigger businesses should be paying a higher tax rate than smaller businesses, especially when you consider that within 5 years, more than half of all businesses started will have gone bust. For example, burnt cigarettes tasting coffee seller Starbucks paid just 7.2 million of corporation tax on 149 million of gross profit because it can funnel cash out of the UK to Starbucks EMEA in a tax-friendly jurisdiction for royalty payments. Now, the small independent coffee shop will not only struggle to stay afloat, but it'll pay a much higher tax rate than 4.83%.
Do not check the HMRC app thinking that you are going to get paid a lot of money. So like several months ago, I saw everyone being like, oh, check the HMRC website or app or whatever, because they can like owe you like so much money. And I kept checking like every like few months after that. And like, they was like, oh, we haven't calculated your tax yet. We haven't calculated your tax yet. So, okay, cool, let me download the app, because I'll send an email or letter and they'll be like, oh, like, we owe you this much, we owe you this much, right? Today was the first time I got a letter from them, and I was like really excited to open it. Mind you, I just got this letter, I just checked it now, right? So I was like, oh, I'm really excited to see this letter, like, let me just see how much, like, they're gonna pay me. I owe $428.60. Do not check to see if they owe you tax, or if you think that they're going to owe you tax money back, because you're going to end up paying them $420.
I can't actually believe, right, that my comment section is half full of people actually thinking that they want to grass on someone. Like, so how much do you think HMRC are going to pay? Do you know what, guys? HMRC will probably do you over at the same time as doing them over. They probably will try, like, under false circumstances, say, yeah, we'll pay this, but they won't, and then they'll probably tax you on it, and then they'll probably say, well, that takes you over the threshold now if you're on benefits, and one way or another, they'll just do you over. So stay in your own lane, mind your own business. If you know someone's just, you know, maybe not paying tax, you probably don't know their circumstances, leave them to it. Don't be a busybody. Phone HMRC. Like, HMRC need to, instead of paying other people to snitch, they need to just be on it more. So yeah,
at this point, I don't think I want to be doing bank shift anymore. So our payslip came back today, and I've been sad since midnight. Hey God. You know when HMRC, I'm waiting to call on, if you see the axe they put on my bank shift, my bank payslip. So in the UK, if you do bank, that's extra shift. You have two pay slips rather. One for your main job, and the second one, which is bank, serves as the second job. What I paid as tax this month, hey God! And the shift I did that were paid for. They are escalated rates, so like they are not normal bank shift, they are escalated rates. When I first saw the pay slip, for like 30 minutes, I didn't even know what I was doing at work. Hey God. At this point, I think I'll retire. At the end of the day, I'm going to retire back to my husband's house. I'll be doing my yawoga jejely, cause man, I can't be busting my ass like this and get paid peanuts. It's not going to work, man. HMRC, kini mo ṣe fún yín? What did I do to you people?
Just got this year's council tax bill, and honestly, I'm raging, and I knew I was going to be raging. We get 2 months off a year, right, where we don't have to pay council tax. We are paying council tax. It's just spread over 10 months rather than 12, right? Don't go fooling yourself. But we've had a 4.8% increase in council tax. An increase in what we have to pay, but a decrease in the services that we're going to receive. Because we live in rip-off Britain. I'm absolutely sick of it. I'm not surprised. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for the council tax letters, and it's just filled us with more rage. The country is on its arse. Yeah? We'll pay more, we'll get less. We'll pay more, we'll get less. Pay more, get less. Honestly, I am so wound up. People can't afford to put food in the bellies. They can't afford to heat the house, but they have to pay more council tax, because if you don't pay your council tax, you go to prison. Honestly, this country is messed up. I wouldn't mind paying more. I wouldn't mind paying more if the services that we got were to a decent standard. Down here in London, yeah, especially the borough of Croydon, load of rubbish. Honestly, it's a load of rubbish. The place is scruffy, it's filthy, the crime levels are high, you can't even get your bins emptied, right? You're paying more for emergency services, I know that, but apparently you wait about 6 hours for an ambulance these days, and then you're left on the floor of a corridor, yeah? Corridor in a hospital. That's what we're paying for, guys, that's what we're paying for. Honestly, this country sucks big butt, and I'm sick of it. Anyway, I'm off to calm down.
Since 1946, we've been forced to pay for a TV licence. Yeah, 1946, back when people were rationing butter and watching TV in black and white. But guess what? They're about to shake things up again. Right now, it's one licence per household. But hold on to your mates, because they're about to hit us with a plot twist. The new plan, ditch a TV licence and replace it with a general tax. Translation, every working man and woman gets to pay individually. Oh joy! Instead of the £170 per household, it's £170 per working adult. For a family of two, that's £340 a year, because apparently we're all made of money. But wait, is this fair? Should Aunt Karen, who hasn't watched TV since 2003, have to pay for this? I mean, she's been busy posting Minion memes on Facebook anyway. Supporters say it's modern. Critics like myself say it's just another way to squeeze every single penny out of us. Honestly, it's giving taxation without representation vibes. With everyone streaming Netflix and dodging traditional TV, the current system is definitely on life support. But is this the right solution, or just another way to make us pay for stuff that we don't even use? Let's be real. I'm not happy about this, and I bet most of you aren't either. So here's the big question. Is there anything to stop this from going ahead? Here's what we can do. Sign petitions against the change. Write to our MP and let them know how we feel. Share this video and spread the word, because the more people who know, the harder it is for them to push things through. This isn't just about a TV licence, it's about fairness. So let's make some noise and stop this from happening. What do you think? Drop your comments and let's get organised, and I'll see you in the next video.
Well done. Oh, he fucked it. He fucked it. You gotta go faster, mate. A bit faster. Stand up. Oh no. Oh no. That's it. That's it. Ah, I fucked it. Boy, get on that bike.
So, something I've just been reading about over the last few days. I don't know whether anybody's aware of this, but bit of underhanding, I think, you know what I mean, from the you-know-who, people who are supposedly in charge. Anyway, go and have a look, because this is a bit concerning, I think. The HMRC are now going to tax you if you have savings of over £10,000. So, basically, you go to work, you earn your money, you get taxed on it. You put it in your bank to save up, you're now going to get taxed on it. You try and give it to your family if you pass away or you get older and you don't need it, you get taxed on it. It's just, when's it all going to stop and you know what I mean, start thinking about people. You go out to work all your life, earn your money. You try and put some money in the bank for a rainy day, a holiday. Even young uns these days, that concerns me, that are trying to save up to get a mortgage to buy an house, are now going to get taxed on that money that's in their bank and savings. I mean, oh my God. I mean, honestly, really? I just think it's absolutely disgusting in this day and age that you go out to work, you earn your money, and you can't even spend it on things because you're constantly getting taxed. And don't get me on about being self-employed. You get self-employed these days, you're ruined. The taxman's banging at your door every 3 seconds. You've got to pay this tax bill, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It's pathetic, honestly. You're on about, like, giving more people money in the banks and stuff. Well, no, you're not. You're on about taking more money off people. Honestly, somebody needs to get in and somebody needs to get a grip of this. If it's your money, it's your money. End of story. Why are we all getting taxed every 2 seconds for it? And the other thing is, doing it underhandedly, you know what I mean? Doing it by the back door, so nobody knows about it. It's not really on news, is it? Go and Google it and have a look. Have a good one.
At this point, we didn't leave the EU. We just paid for a scenic route back. The UK has just signed a new deal with the EU to basically undo half the mess of Brexit. They're easing border checks on food, bringing back smoother trade. Oh, and guess what? They're even allowing younger people to be able to freely flow between Europe and the UK. And remember the fishing rights all you Brexiters were like chanting for and really wanted? For the next 12 years, the EU's fishing rights are back. That must sting a little bit. So we basically spent billions to leave the EU only to crawl back begging for them to kind of take us back. And somehow the racists will still blame migration for all of the financial problems in the UK.
A new deal between the UK and the EU is being led by Prime Minister Keir Starmer. It's been framed as a way to cut food prices and ease trade. But behind the headlines, it's something far, far bigger. A major step forward to regulatory alignment with Brussels. Under the proposed agreement, the UK would follow EU animal welfare and food standards. And that's without a vote, without a voice, and without a veto. Critics say this hands the EU power over British law, effectively reversing parts of Brexit behind closed doors. Even more controversial is the youth mobility scheme, a plan that could reintroduce freedom of movement under a new name, allowing thousands of young Europeans to live and work in the UK. Supporters call it practical, opponents call it a political betrayal, accusing the government of dragging Britain back into the European control without a debate. So the question is, are we resolving trade issues or opening the door back to EU control? I'd be keen to know what you think. Comment down below.
Keir Starmer announced a reset in relations between the UK and the EU this week. We're joined by the Shadow Minister for Sunlit Uplands, the Right Honourable Jeffrey.
It was a betrayal, surrender, treachery.
Are you okay?
I'm absolutely fantastic. I haven't screamed those words in years. Brings it all back. God, I miss those days.
What days?
The Brexit days, arguing about sovereignty and deals and the will of the people until late into the night, before getting plastered, then getting up the following morning and doing it all again. It was a golden time.
Right.
Everything felt so important, so vibrant, so young.
Well, the vote was 9 years ago.
Feels just like yesterday.
Speaking of yesterday, what did you think of this new deal?
It's an utter humiliation. Sir Keir Starmer might as well have put on a gimp mask, lubed himself up and then splayed himself.
Shadow Minister. Sorry, got a bit carried away there. What exactly is your problem with this deal?
I mean, what isn't the problem? I mean, our poor British fish will still be subject to the whims of those rough-handed European fishermen for at least 12 more years.
Well, they're only extending a deal that Boris Johnson made.
Yes, but for him, deals were like wives. He was always on the lookout for a better one.
But in return, British fishermen will be able to sell their fish to Europe more easily, which is where 70% of their catch goes.
What can I say? The fishermen aren't happy.
Are they ever? Fair point. So what else are you angry about?
They're letting in the youths.
Well, there's a proposed youth mobility scheme.
Millions of grubby European youths coming over here, smoking their thin cigarettes and getting off with our girlfriends.
They've said the numbers will be capped.
But how will they know? They'll come over here on a ferry, then once they're here, they'll change their clothes and disguise themselves as British young people, and we'll never be able to tell the difference, except by the smell.
really? God, this is fun. I've really missed this. Bashing foreigners is great. Wasn't the whole point of Brexit that the government could strike their own deals? Yes, but not like this. They've done a deal with India, they've got an agreement with the US, they've got this new deal with Europe. What would you have done differently? We'd have done it better, got better deals. But how would you have done that? We'd have gone in there, we'd have reminded them that we're Britain, for God's sake, and we deserve the very best. And if that didn't work, we'd say it louder. So why didn't you do any of that when you were in power? We were getting to it, we just needed a bit more time. How much more time? Another couple of decades and we'd have cracked it for sure. Thank you, Shadow Minister. No deal is better than a bad deal. God, I feel so alive. Now, where did I put that GIMP mask?
On Monday, tomorrow, Sir Keir Starmer is set to unveil a deal with the EU that critics argue could unravel the very fabric of Brexit. The UK will align with EU food standards, a move some see as a significant reversal of the Brexit process. Nick Thomas-Symonds, the Minister for EU Relations, stated that the government would align on common standards to make sure we get far easier trade and secure an agreement. This alignment, particularly on sanitary and phytosanitary standards, aims to reduce border checks and facilitate smoother trade. However, this approach has raised concerns amongst Brexit supporters. Alex Burghart, a shadow cabinet minister, warned that the UK is on the brink of this big capitulation, suggesting that dynamic alignment would mean following EU rules without having a say in their creation. And here's the issue of retained EU law adds another layer to this complex situation. After Brexit, the UK retained a significant body of EU law to ensure legal continuity. Initially, the government aimed to revoke around 4,000 EU laws by the end of 2023. However, this target was later reduced to approximately 800 laws, with the remaining laws still under review. As of early 2024, the UK has revoked or reformed over 1,000 EU laws, so not even a quarter, but thousands still remain on the statute book, and the government's retained EU law dashboard lists over 4,000 legislative instruments identified as retained EU law. Translation, we never left, and anyone blaming a Brexit that never happened might want to be reminded of that. This substantial retention of EU laws raises questions about the extent to which the UK has truly reclaimed legal sovereignty. Critics argue that aligning with EU standards, especially without a say in their formulation, undermines the principle of taking back control. In summary, while the government's intention to facilitate trade and reduce bureaucratic hurdles, the decision to align with EU food standards and retain a significant portion of EU law has sparked a debate about the UK's post-Brexit autonomy and the true meaning of sovereignty. And also, we mustn't forget that this goes completely against the democratic vote and just shows that Labour are no different to the Tories. So I'm sorry, Labour voters, you voted the Tories out to put them straight back in. How? Because you still can't grasp what the establishment actually is.
I had a lovely day. I had a lovely session at my gym, right? Great. Right, pulling close to my old weights again. No, actually, I'm pulling nowhere close. But I'm confident with pulling what I'm pulling. Good deadlifts. Pressing session was on point. Strict press, like 35 kilo, no danger. My comp weight's 40, and that's not till October, and I can use my knees, so everything's great. Everything's great. And then a letter comes through. I opened the door, and HMRC letter. I knew straight away what it was, because they do it every year. Every year. You've not paid your tax. Yes, I have. I paid on the 30th of January because I wanted to pay it last minute, because you're not holding on to it for that long. You owe us £1,116. It's not what my accountant's worked out again. So I've rang HMRC, right? You know, all the going through the security, everything, talking to an AI system that hates Northerners, all that bullshit. And then finally get through all that and goes, we can't process your request right now. Hangs up on me. After it's taken me 15 minutes. So then I was sat on hold for 56 minutes. Do you want my money or not? For them to turn around and say, yeah, we want future predicted payments. Which I paid the year before, but I wasn't doing it this year. No, we want future predicted payments. We predict you're going to earn X amount of money next year, and we want paying based on that. So you want 2 years worth of tax. So for 3 years, I've paid 6 years worth of tax, right? And they could just request that. They can just say, no, I want that. Never mind, I might go, oh, actually, I'm not going to run my own company anymore. I'm going to go and sit on the street with a cup. No, they still want 6 years. So they've had 6 years worth of tax. And, I wasn't drinking this week.